The silence of space shattered as massive shadows fell across Earth's moon. One by one, colossal ships emerged from the darkness between stars, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to absorb light itself. The Zephyrian. Dreadnoughts moved with impossible grace for vessels so enormous, each one stretching nearly 50 kilometers from bow to stern. Commander Lee Hyun gripped the railings of his bridge as alarms blared throughout the UES Defender, humanity's most advanced warship. Through the reinforced viewing ports, he watched helplessly as alien vessels took positions around Earth's orbital installations. The largest Zephyrian ship dwarfed Lunar Base itself, casting the moon's research stations into permanent shadow. "Sir, we're detecting over 3,000 vessels in their formation," reported Lieutenant Park Dae-hyun, his voice barely steady. "Their smallest escorts are twice the size of our heavy cruisers." Lee Hyun had spent 20 years in Earth's combined fleet, rising through countless battles against pirates and resource conflicts in the outer colonies. Nothing had prepared him for this moment. The alien ships moved without visible propulsion, their surfaces crackling with energy patterns that made his navigation systems scream warnings. The communication arrays across Earth's surface suddenly activated simultaneously. Every television, radio, smartphone, and military channel received the same transmission. The voice that spoke was cold, mechanical, yet somehow conveying infinite arrogance. "Primitive species of the third planet, I am Herald Nexus of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our dominion. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. Disarm your military forces, accept imperial governance, and prepare to provide tribute according to standard subjugation protocols. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization. This message will not be repeated." The transmission cut off, leaving only static across every frequency. Within minutes, chaos erupted across Earth's surface. In major cities, crowds flooded. The streets in panic. Families packed whatever belongings they could carry, fleeing toward rural areas and underground shelters. The stock markets crashed within the first hour as automated trading systems registered the unprecedented threat. President Park Min-ji sat in the reinforced command bunker beneath the Blue House, her face pale as reports streamed in from around the globe. Emergency sessions convened in every major capital, but the math was simple and terrifying. Earth's entire space fleet consisted of barely 200 vessels, most designed for patrol duties and asteroid mining operations. "Madam President," General Cho Min-seok's voice crackled through the secure communication link from the Pentagon's equivalent bunker. "Our combined nuclear arsenal couldn't scratch their smallest ship. Their energy shields are deflecting everything we throw at them, including our most advanced scanning attempts." Meanwhile, deep beneath Seoul's bustling streets, in a facility so classified it appeared on no government records, Colonel Kim Ji-won stared at holographic displays showing the alien fleet formation. His team of military analysts worked frantically. Around him, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of tactical projections. "Colonel, their positioning makes no tactical sense," Major Choi Hana said, pointing at the three-dimensional display. "Look at these gaps in their formation. Any competent military force would never leave such obvious weaknesses." Captain Yoon. Subin nodded in agreement, manipulating the hologram to highlight specific vessel clusters. "They're treating this like a parade formation, not a military deployment. It's as if they're more concerned with looking impressive than maintaining defensive positions." Kim Ji-won studied the patterns with the eye of a veteran strategist. He had earned his reputation during the Mars colony uprising, where he had successfully defended the research stations using inferior equipment and sheer tactical brilliance. Something about the alien deployment bothered him beyond the obvious size disparity. "They're arrogant," he told his team, his voice cutting through the tension in the underground facility. "Look at their positioning. They think this is already over. They're not even bothering with proper fleet security protocols." Lieutenant Colonel Nam Soo-hyun pulled up intelligence reports from the initial contact. "Sir, we've been monitoring their internal communications. Most of their traffic suggests this is routine for them. They're calling it a standard subjugation operation, and several of their larger vessels have already departed for other assignments." The implications struck Kim Ji-won like lightning. They're not taking us seriously. This isn't their main fleet. It's a cleanup crew. Around the room, his officers began to understand. Major Choi Hana's eyes widened as she processed the tactical implications. If this is just their reserves, then their main force expectations are based on previous conquests, species that surrender after seeing overwhelming force. Captain Yoon. Soobin pulled up historical Earth military data. Colonel, humans have never been particularly good at mathematical surrender. Remember Thermopylae, the Alamo, Stalingrad. Kim Ji-won smiled grimly as the countdown timer on his display showed 68 hours remaining. Above them, the world panicked and governments prepared surrender documents. But in this buried facility, surrounded by the best tactical minds humanity could produce, something else was taking shape. The real human response was just beginning. The holographic displays in the Seoul bunker flickered with new intelligence as Kim Ji-won's team worked through their second sleepless night. The alien fleet's communication patterns told a story that both terrified and encouraged the human analysts. "Colonel, we've cracked more of their transmissions," Lieutenant Colonel Nam Soo-hyun announced, his fingers dancing across quantum decryption interfaces. "The good news is that 70% of their original armada departed yesterday for what they call the Andromedas campaign. The bad news is that what remains still outnumbers our entire space fleet 15 to 1. Kim Ji-won studied the updated tactical display. The remaining Zephyrian forces consisted of roughly 800 vessels, but their formation revealed something crucial about alien military doctrine. They maintained perfect geometric spacing, following protocols designed for intimidation rather than combat efficiency. "They fight like a computer program," Major Choi Hana observed, highlighting movement patterns in the hologram. "Every maneuver follows predictable algorithms. They've never adapted to chaos because they've never needed to." Across the city, Lieutenant Commander Odeho stood in the massive Hyundai Heavy Industries shipyard, where humanity's most desperate gamble was taking shape. Massive cargo haulers that once carried grain between Earth and the colonies were being stripped down and rebuilt as improvised warships. Welding sparks flew as teams of engineers worked around the clock, mounting mining lasers and industrial reactors onto civilian hulls. "Boss, this is insane," muttered Chief Engineer Park Yejin as she watched workers bolt nuclear power cores from decommissioned satellites onto a converted bulk freighter. "These ships weren't designed for combat. Half of them will probably explode before reaching the enemy." Odeho surveyed the controlled chaos of the shipyard. Former truck drivers learned to operate spacecraft controls, while farmers studied basic space navigation. The volunteer pilots came from every corner of human society, united by one simple truth: they refused to kneel. "If we can't match their technology, we'll overwhelm them with numbers," he declared to his engineering teams. "Every cargo hauler, every mining barge, every retired transport that can mount a reactor becomes a weapon. The Zephyrians calculate victory based on military assets. They don't know how to factor in human stubbornness." The transformation happening across Earth's industrial centers defied every military handbook ever written. In the asteroid mining stations around Mars, crews retrofitted ore processors into kinetic projectile launchers. The massive fusion torches used for deep space propulsion became improvised weapons capable of melting through most known armor. Meanwhile, communications officer Lim Seora worked from a hidden relay station in the Korean mountains, intercepting and translating alien communications with increasingly sophisticated quantum algorithms. What she discovered painted a picture of an empire that had never encountered true resistance. "Listen to this," she told her team, playing back a translated Zephyrian transmission. "Fleet Commander Vex Korath to Imperial Command. The humans continue their primitive posturing. Our xenobiologists predict complete capitulation within the next rotation cycle. Several species have already volunteered to serve as administrative governors once the conquest concludes." The contempt in the alien commander's voice was unmistakable. Another transmission revealed even more about Zephyrian expectations. "Our cultural analysis indicates this species follows mathematical probability in warfare decisions. No sentient race has ever chosen mutual destruction over logical surrender. Lieutenant Jiang Minwu, working alongside Lim Seora, discovered the most crucial intelligence yet. The Zephyrians have conquered over 300 worlds in the past millennium, he reported. Every single species surrendered after the initial demonstration of force. They've never actually fought a prolonged war. This revelation sent shockwaves through the resistance command structure. An empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries had never faced an enemy willing to fight impossible odds. Their military doctrine, their technology, even their psychological warfare tactics were designed around intimidation and quick submission. As the 48-hour mark approached, Captain Nam Jinwoo prepared the first wave of converted civilian vessels at Lunar Base. The motley fleet bore no resemblance to any military force in galactic history. Grain haulers bristled with improvised missile pods. Mining ships carried nuclear warheads where ore processors once operated. Even small personal craft had been modified, with ramming spikes and overloaded reactors. The volunteer pilots came from backgrounds the Zephyrians couldn't have imagined. Farmer Kim Taejun had spent decades moving agricultural products between Earth and the outer colonies. Now he piloted a converted cargo ship loaded with enough nuclear material to level a city. Truck driver Lee Soo-min, who had never left Earth's atmosphere before this week, learned spacecraft controls while preparing to ram her industrial hauler into alien dreadnoughts. "I've got grandchildren down there," she told her makeshift crew as they ran final system checks. "These aliens think we'll just hand over our world because they have bigger guns. They don't understand what they're dealing with." Factory worker Joy Bogum, who had operated manufacturing robots for 20 years, now commanded the weapon systems on a converted asteroid processor. "My family fled North Korea when I was young," he said over the comm system. "We know what it means to fight for freedom, even when the odds are impossible." The countdown timer showed 36 hours remaining when the first wave of human resistance ships began moving into position. The Zephyrian fleet maintained their perfect formations, confident in their technological superiority, and following protocols that had worked flawlessly for centuries. What they couldn't factor into their calculations was the one element that had never appeared in their conquest equations: humans who would rather die fighting than live on their knees. The countdown timer hit zero at exactly 14:32 Earth Standard Time. Across every communication channel, silence stretched for 30 seconds before humanity delivered its answer. Not through words, but through action that would echo across the galaxy for generations. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, nearly 400 converted civilian vessels ignited their engines simultaneously. The first wave consisted of massive grain haulers, their cargo holds packed with nuclear warheads, and their hulls reinforced with industrial-grade titanium plating. These ships had once carried rice from Earth to the Jupiter colonies. Now they carried humanity's defiance straight into the heart of the Zephyrian formation. Overlord Vex Theron stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Imperial Sovereign, watching sensor displays that made no tactical sense. The primitive human vessels approached in chaotic formations, their propulsion systems burning at dangerous overload levels. His tactical computers struggled to predict their movements because there was no logical pattern to analyze. Herald Theron, "The humans are approaching at ramming speed," reported his weapons officer, a tall crystalline being from the conquered Altran system. "Their vessels show no attempt at evasive maneuvers. They appear to be targeting our destroyers directly." Theron's multiple eyes focused on the display. "Impossible. No species commits to mutual destruction tactics. Order the defense grid to disable their engines. We need prisoners for questioning." The Zephyrian beam weapons lanced out, precision, shots designed to cripple rather than destroy. But the human pilots had anticipated this. Farmer Kim Taejun's converted cargo hauler took multiple hits, his engine compartment erupting in sparks, but he had rigged backup thrusters throughout his ship. As Zephyrian energy beams melted his primary drive, Kim activated his improvised propulsion system and kept accelerating. "This is Grain Runner 7, Kim's voice crackled over the human communication network. "Primary drive is gone, but I'm still coming for you, alien scum. Tell my family I died fighting." His ship struck the Zephyrian destroyer Nexus Prime amidships. The nuclear warheads in his cargo hold detonating in a brilliant flash that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. The alien warship, designed to withstand conventional weapons, simply disintegrated under the point-blank nuclear explosion. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human desperation met alien arrogance. Truck driver Lee Sumin rammed her industrial hauler into a Zephyrian escort vessel, while factory worker Choi Bogum's converted asteroid processor took out an entire alien patrol wing through sheer determination and explosive force. From his mobile command bunker hidden in the asteroid belt, Colonel Kim Ji-won coordinated the chaos with the skill of a conductor leading a deadly orchestra. His tactical display showed the unthinkable. Human forces were actually inflicting significant casualties on the supposedly invincible Zephyrian fleet. Major An Suji, execute flanking maneuver Delta 7, he commanded through encrypted channels. Hit their communication relay ships while they're distracted by the frontal assault. Major An Suji acknowledged from her position among the Trojan asteroids, where she had hidden a squadron of converted mining vessels. These ships, designed for deep space ore extraction, had been modified with stealth plating salvaged from decommissioned military satellites. They moved like ghosts through the asteroid field, their heat signatures masked by the natural radiation. Of Space Orcs. Stealthwing, this is Shadow Leader, An Suji whispered into her communications array. Target their quantum relay nodes. Once we cut their communications, they'll be fighting blind. Her squadron struck with surgical precision, their modified mining lasers slicing through Zephyrian communication ships like hot knives through butter. The alien vessels, never designed to fight enemies that used stealth tactics, found themselves under attack from directions their sensors couldn't track. Meanwhile, Captain Hong Min-ho orchestrated perhaps the most audacious part of the human resistance from a hidden facility on Earth's moon. Using primitive radio technology that the Zephyrians considered obsolete, he began broadcasting on frequencies that interfered with alien quantum networks. "Sir, this shouldn't be possible," his communications officer reported. "Their quantum systems are supposed to be immune to electromagnetic interference." Hong Min-ho smiled grimly as he watched Zephyrian formations beginning to scatter and lose coordination. They built their systems to resist advanced jamming techniques. They never considered that someone might use 100-year-old radio technology against them. Sometimes primitive solutions work better than sophisticated ones. The effect was devastating. Zephyrian ships, accustomed to instantaneous communication across their formation, suddenly found themselves operating independently. Their perfect geometric formations dissolved into chaos as individual captains made contradictory decisions without central coordination. Overlord Theron watched his tactical display with growing horror as red warning indicators spread across his fleet status. In 3 hours of combat, he had lost over 60 vessels to an enemy that should have been crushed within minutes. His weapons officers reported impossible scenarios, human ships continuing to fight even after sustaining damage that should have been fatal. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical staff. "Our battle computers predicted complete human capitulation within the first engagement cycle." His intelligence officer, a cybernetic being from the Xerion system, consulted data streams with mechanical precision. "Overlord, the humans are not following any recognized military doctrine. They appear to be treating every engagement as a suicide mission. Our psychological profiles have no reference for this behavior pattern." The truth was becoming clear to alien commanders across the battle zone. Every human vessel fought like a cornered animal, turning desperate situations into mutual destruction scenarios. When their weapons failed, they rammed enemy ships. When their engines died, they detonated their reactors. When their hulls were breached, they continued fighting with auxiliary systems until their ships simply disintegrated around them. 3 weeks into what should have been a routine conquest, Overlord Theron found himself composing a message he never thought he would send. His flagship's communication array opened a direct channel to Imperial Command in the Zephyrian home system. "This is Overlord Theron, requesting immediate reinforcements for the Sol system operation," he transmitted, his pride wounded, but his pragmatism intact. "The human species exhibits combat characteristics not present in our xenobiological databases. recommend upgrading this mission from standard subjugation to full military conquest protocol. The response from his superiors was swift and filled with displeasure. The Zephyrian Empire had not needed to commit additional resources to a single world conquest in over 2 centuries. The breakthrough came at 03:47 hours on the 32nd day of the war, in a damaged Zephyrian communication relay drifting near Jupiter's 4th moon. Dr. Kang So-young crouched inside the alien vessel's twisted corridors, her engineering team working frantically to crack the quantum transmission systems before Zephyrian reinforcements arrived. "Doctor, we've got it," announced Chief Technician Yu Ji-wan, his hands flying over the crystalline control interfaces. Their communication network uses quantum entanglement across the entire galaxy. If we can piggyback our signal onto their system, we can reach every world in the Empire simultaneously. Kang So-young studied the alien technology with the focused intensity that had earned her 3 degrees in theoretical physics. The Zephyrian communication array was beautiful in its complexity, but she had found its weakness. The system was designed for authorized Imperial traffic only. It had no security protocols for handling unauthorized transmissions because rebellion had never been considered possible. "Patch me through to Colonel Kim," she ordered. "We have one shot at this before they realize what we're doing." Back on Earth, Lieutenant John Mina sat in a hidden broadcast facility beneath the ruins of Seoul's communication center. The city above lay partially destroyed from Zephyrian orbital bombardments, but the underground networks remained intact. When Dr. Kang's signal came through, Mina knew she was about to make history. "This is Lieutenant John Mina of the Earth Defense Forces," she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "To all the conquered peoples of the galaxy, this message comes from the 3rd planet of the Sol system. For 32 days, humanity has fought the Zephyrian Empire. We have bled them. We have made them pay for every kilometer of space they claim." Her words traveled through the captured relay, bouncing across quantum networks to reach worlds that had lived under Imperial rule for centuries. On the industrial planet Kepler 442b, underground resistance cells huddled around hidden receivers, listening to something they had never heard before: news of successful resistance. "The Empire told you they were invincible," Mina continued. "They lied. In the past month, human forces have destroyed over 300 Zephyrian vessels. We have shown that their technology can be defeated, their formations can be broken, their arrogance can be turned against them. The Empire bleeds. They can be beaten. Rise up." The transmission lasted only 90 seconds before Zephyrian countermeasures cut the signal, but those 90 seconds changed the galaxy forever. On Proxima, Centauri B, the Aquilan people, who had served as Imperial bureaucrats for 2 centuries, began sabotaging Imperial installations. In the Vega system, the silicon-based crystalline collective stopped producing the exotic materials that powered Zephyrian starships. Overlord Theron received the first rebellion reports while dealing with his own mounting casualties around Earth. The humans had just destroyed another patrol squadron using converted garbage haulers packed with antimatter, and now his intelligence officers brought news that made his blood run cold. "Sir, we're receiving reports of coordinated uprisings in 12 systems," reported Commander Zex Vorian, his tactical display showing red warning indicators across multiple star charts. "The Altarian colonies have declared independence. The Centauri Mining Consortium has ceased all shipments to Imperial worlds. Most seriously, the Vegan shipyards have gone silent." Theron's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Vegan shipyards produce 60% of the Empire's military vessels. Without their output, the Imperial Navy would struggle to replace combat losses. How did word of our difficulties spread so quickly? "The humans infiltrated our quantum communication network. Sir, they broadcast their propaganda across the entire galaxy before we could stop them. On the distant world of Tau Ceti, the mantid Queen Clixara received the human transmission in her underground hive. For 50 years, her people had served as Imperial shock troops, their natural combat abilities exploited by Zephyrian commanders. Now, for the first time, she saw an alternative to endless servitude. "Gather the war brood," she commanded her generals. "If these humans can fight the Empire and survive, perhaps we can reclaim our homeworld." Similar scenes played out across dozens of systems as the human message sparked rebellions that had been smoldering for decades. The Aquilan resistance began, sabotaging Imperial supply lines. The Crystalline Collective turned their industrial capacity toward building weapons instead of Imperial technology. Most dangerously for the Empire, the genetically enhanced Helios warriors began abandoning their Imperial commanders mid-battle. Back in the Sol system, Overlord Theron faced a strategic nightmare. His forces were stretched thin, trying to contain human resistance while rebellion erupted throughout his sector. The Imperial Council's response was swift and merciless: crush Earth immediately or face court-martial for military incompetence. Deploy all remaining reserves, Theron ordered, knowing he was risking everything on one final assault. I want every ship, every weapon, every warrior we have focused on destroying the human homeworld. If we can eliminate Earth, we can use their destruction as an example to crush these other rebellions. The reinforcements that arrived were impressive even by Imperial standards. Dreadnoughts that had conquered entire star systems moved into Earth's orbit. Battle stations capable of cracking planets positioned themselves around humanity's solar system. The largest military force ever assembled by the Zephyrian Empire prepared for what their commanders promised would be the final battle. Commander Shin Yohan watched the enemy build up from his command ship, a converted luxury liner that now bristled with improvised weapons. Around him, humanity's remaining fleet prepared for their last stand. They had no illusions about their chances. The reinforced Zephyrian armada outnumbered them 50-1. "Sir, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy," reported communications. Officer Bai Sungmin. "The Altarian rebels are engaging Imperial forces in their system. The Mantid hives are rising on 6 different worlds. The Crystalline Collective has declared total war against the Empire." Shin Yohan smiled grimly as he surveyed his makeshift fleet. Converted cargo ships, modified mining vessels, and civilian craft that had no business in a space battle. But each ship carried something the vast Zephyrian armada lacked: the knowledge that they were fighting not just for Earth, but for the freedom of an entire galaxy. "All ships, this is Commander Shin," he broadcast on the human fleet frequency. "The galaxy is watching. Whatever happens here, we've already won. We've shown them that the Empire can be beaten. Now let's remind them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." The final battle was about to begin, and the fate of countless worlds hung in the balance. The final assault began at dawn on the 47th day of humanity's war for survival. Earth's orbital space erupted into chaos as the largest military force in Zephyrian history moved to crush the human resistance once and for all. Massive Imperial dreadnoughts, each one capable of glassing an entire continent, advanced in perfect formation toward Earth's defensive perimeter. Admiral Bai Jihe stood on the bridge of her flagship, the converted luxury cruise liner Sol's Pride, watching sensors that showed impossible odds. Her ragtag fleet of 230 vessels faced over 12,000 Imperial warships. Every military academy in human history would have called this suicide, but Bai Jihe had stopped believing in military academies weeks ago. "All ships, this is Admiral Bai," she broadcast across the human fleet frequency. "Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every enslaved world watching us. Make every shot count. Make every sacrifice meaningful. Show the galaxy what humans do when cornered." The first wave of Zephyrian attackers came in like a steel tsunami, their energy weapons lighting up space with deadly precision. Human ships, scattered in all directions, using chaotic movement patterns that confused alien targeting computers designed for conventional warfare. The converted cargo hauler Daegu Merchant took direct hits from 3 enemy destroyers, but kept flying, its improvised armor plating holding just long enough for Captain Lee Minji to ram her ship into the nearest Zephyrian vessel. Captain Wu Taehyun piloted his nuclear-armed freight hauler Busan Thunder straight toward Overlord Theron's massive command ship. The Imperial Sovereign stretched 15 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull crackling with energy shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons. But Wu Taehyun had learned something about alien technology during the long weeks of warfare. Their shields were designed to stop sophisticated attacks, not crude ones. "This is for my daughter," he whispered into his communication system as Zephyrian beam weapons tore chunks from his ship's hull. His engines were failing, his life support was gone, but his nuclear payload remained intact. The Busan Thunder struck the Imperial flagship's shields at maximum velocity, the primitive nuclear warheads detonating in a chain reaction that overloaded the alien defensive systems. Across the battlefield, Major Jung Arium coordinated suicide attacks with the cold precision of a chess master moving pieces toward checkmate. From her command post aboard the modified mining vessel, Gangwon Excavator, she directed waves of human ships toward high-value Imperial targets. Each attack cost lives, but each attack also eliminated alien vessels that had terrorized the galaxy. For centuries. Strike Team 7, target that communication array, she ordered, watching as a squadron of converted garbage haulers accelerated toward a Zephyrian command vessel. Strike Team 12, I need you to take out those troop transports before they reach Earth's atmosphere. The space around Earth became a graveyard of twisted metal and radioactive debris. Human ships, never designed for combat, fell apart under enemy fire, but continued fighting with backup systems and pure determination. The Zephyrian forces, accustomed to quick victories against demoralized opponents, found themselves in a grinding battle of attrition against enemies who refused to accept defeat. Overlord Theron's command ship shuddered under repeated ramming. Ataxa's human vessels treated his flagship like a target in a deadly game. His tactical displays showed something unprecedented in Imperial military history, organized resistance that grew stronger under pressure instead of weaker. Sir, we've lost over 2,000 vessels, reported his weapons officer, mandibles clicking with stress. The humans are coordinating their attacks with mathematical precision. They're treating their own ships as expendable ammunition. Before Theron could respond, Lieutenant Colonel Song Hojin's damaged cruiser Incheon Defender broke through the Imperial defensive screen. Song's ship had lost engines, weapons, and life support, but its nuclear reactor remained functional. With his last conscious act, Song overrode the reactor's safety systems and aimed his dying vessel at the alien dreadnought's weakest point. The explosion that followed lit up Earth's sky like a second sun. The Imperial sovereign, pride of the Zephyrian fleet, simply disintegrated under the point-blank nuclear detonation. Overlord Theron's final transmission was a scream of rage that echoed across Imperial communication networks before dissolving into static. The surviving Zephyrian forces, leaderless and demoralized, began withdrawing from the Sol system. For the first time in over a millennium, an Imperial invasion force had retreated from a single world conquest. The cost to humanity was staggering. Over 60% of Earth's major cities lay in ruins. Millions of civilians had died, and their space fleet was reduced to scattered debris. But in the days that followed, the true magnitude of humanity's victory became clear. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy as the fire of rebellion spread to dozens of star systems. On Proxima Centauri B, the Aquilan resistance had seized Imperial administrative centers. In the Vega system, Crystalline, collective forces had destroyed 3 Imperial battle groups. The Mantid hives had declared total war against their former masters. Colonel Kim Ji-won, now operating from a makeshift command center in the ruins of Seoul, coordinated the growing galactic resistance. His communication arrays crackled with messages from liberation movements that had waited centuries for this moment. Earth Command, this is Altarian Liberation Fleet, came one transmission. We've secured the hyperspace routes in our sector. The Empire's reinforcements won't be coming through here. Thank you for showing us the way. Similar messages arrived from the Tau Ceti rebels, the Kepler resistance, and dozens of other freedom movements. The galaxy that had cowered under Imperial rule for generations was finally fighting back, inspired by humanity's refusal to surrender. Admiral Bei Jihye, her arm in a medical brace from the battle, stood among the ruins of her homeworld and watched the sunrise. Earth was scarred, battered, and bleeding, but it remained free. More importantly, the impossible had become possible across the galaxy. We paid a terrible price, she said to the gathered survivors, but we've given the galaxy something it hasn't had in centuries: hope. The Zephyrian Empire would never recover from the chaos that followed. Rebellions erupted faster than Imperial forces could suppress them. The aura of invincibility that had maintained their rule for a millennium was shattered forever. Humanity had answered the Empire's demand for submission with fire, and that fire now burned across the stars. The end.